at the top of the furnace.
Life is stressful, but your video games don't have to be. I mean, sure, they can be. Boot up Dark Souls or any one of its countless clones and stress yourself out to your heart's content. But for me, the holidays are stressful enough on their own. Sometimes all I want to do is turn my brain off and perform some uncomplicated platforming over an aquatic backdrop. Everyone, wave to Wavetale from developer and publisher Thunderful. Now that we've made our acquaintances, let's dive a little deeper into the lore of this nautical narrative adventure. In Wavetale, you play as Sigrid, or Siggy for short, a young girl living on the remains of a submerged city with her grandmother. We begin our adventure with very little details about what happened to the rest of Siggy's family, what caused the world to fall into watery ruin, and where the mysterious and foreboding gloom that plagues the land came from. All we know is that Siggy and her grandmother must maintain the lighthouse with sparks to ensure that the gloom can never creep into their home. Also, Siggy must always stay away from the water. What could possibly go wrong? Certainly not foreshadowing. Not so spoilery spoiler. I mean, look at any trailer or footage of this game and you can tell, much like Moana, Siggy just can't stay away from the water and in fact meets a mysterious ally just below the surface that allows her to pull a Jesus and walk on waves, and not just walk but glide. And just in time to save her home from certain doom. Now isn't that convenient? Controlling our protagonist is unsurprisingly very fluid. You'll run along land or glide along waves using the right trigger, grapple from glowing points using right bumper, and defend yourself or interact with switches using the action button. You have a light and heavy attack, but combat isn't exactly challenging or stressful by any stretch of the imagination, and to be honest, most of what you're going to be doing is looking for and hitting switches to progress from point A to point B. You can also jump, double jump, and glide from high perches and platforms. You have a slightly different moveset in the water where you can dive below the surface to gain momentum and hold down jump to reach new heights. If you are a fan of collectibles, there is plenty of cash to gather and journal entries for Siggy to discover, as well as side quests to complete. For the more competitive, there are also challenges to speed through with various friendly adversaries as you glide across the surface of the water, following waypoints on your rudimentary compass/map. You can also use the cash you've collected to purchase adorable accessories and cosmetic changes for Siggy, like a blobfish detective hat, for example. I personally made my character into Phoebe Bridgers with a skeleton onesie and some blonde hair, because honestly, that's all it takes. Beating the game unlocks a free play mode, which lets you ride the waves without the confines of the core story. Getting to this free play will only take you about 3 to 5 hours, depending on how much you're looking to complete, as Wavetale is a fairly short, almost movie-length experience. I'd say most of my gameplay was smooth sailing, that is, until I reached some rough waters towards the end of my journey. In fact, when it comes to graphics and performance, there were signs of a storm brewing almost straight away with the opening cutscene. There is a noticeable jittering effect, which I can't imagine is intentional, at least I certainly hope not. It happens throughout the game, particularly while you're shopping for accessories or on one of the many boats. I thought for a moment it might have just been a fluke, but I replayed the intro after beating the game and found myself facing the exact same issue, so I'm thinking it is a problem that needs to be addressed. Not game-breaking, but certainly a bit off-putting. Speaking of off-putting, Wavetale outright crashed on me, and I was not able to recover my session without jumping ship entirely. Fortunately, the autosave prevented me from having to do a lot of the backstroke, but other small instances like getting stuck between a literal rock in a hard place and an unruly camera that would pan in the wrong direction as I attempted daring platforming feats prevented Wavetale from crossing the line between good and great for me. For the most part, I was genuinely enjoying the visuals. The water effects, the color palettes, and the character models are all really easy on the eyes. They remind me of cartoons that have that unfinished, unpolished kind of squiggly effect to them, perfectly imperfect, if you will. Sure, things would fade in and out of view from time to time, but what are you really going to complain about? The game is pretty, even if the enemy variety is a bit shallow. Without a doubt, my absolute favorite aspect of Wavetale is the soundtrack. She is a stunner, with current sounding atmospheric tones that almost reminded me of a Sufjan Stevens track, complete with horns and woodwinds swirling and rising like a tidal wave, especially when enemies approach. Light beats and bubbling melodies are just as grand as their oceanic landscape. I also really appreciated the voice acting, especially during the longer cutscenes. It's just so nice to be able to sit back and take in the story with the intended emotions behind the characters, and I thought the cast did a fantastic job bringing this world to life. So, to summarize, the narrative in Wavetale certainly holds water. The visuals are mostly pleasant outside of the aforementioned glitches, and the soundtrack is worth listening to in and out of gameplay. If you've been surfing the web searching for a chill platformer with a creative story that only an indie game can provide, and you don't mind your game being a little bit rough around the edges, Wavetale is one to consider. With a few patches, I think this title could sail right into the hearts of many. But even as is, I enjoyed my time with Wavetale personally for what it was. At no point did I ever feel stressed while playing this title, which is not an experience I have too often here at I Dream of Indie. I'll be damned, this game really did float my boat.
Hello, Mr. Bane.
Don't you have somewhere to be, Bane? We have work to do.
Should be on my way. Fog's closing in. By the way, Doris, have you, talked to anyone lately?
I never talk to anyone now, do I?
They say the dirty paws have been seen by the plaza. I haven't spotted them myself, but
Is this your idea of a joke?
wish it was. Just be careful, will ya?